May I start?
My
Bob?
computer this morning, it shut off, its electricity shut off, and then it decided to reboot itself right after that. And that took 15, 20 minutes of my aggravation. So I didn't hear the hearing at all. And, but I'm here.
It hasn't started
Good to
yet.
see
We're waiting for you. We're waiting for you.
Yeah.
Good morning. Good morning. This is the April meeting of the Woods Hole Martha's Vineyard Steamship Authority. And I'd like to inform everyone that Steve Batty of All Media Production is making a video and audio recording of today's meeting in public session for Martha's Vineyard Community Television, also known as MVTV. I would also like to inform everyone that Sean Driscoll, the authority's communications director, is also making an audio and video recording of today's meeting. Is there anyone else making an audio or video recording of today's meeting? If so, please raise your hand by pressing the hand icon, or if you are joining by phone, pressing *9 on your keypad. And when you are recognized, please state your name for the record. Thank you.
George Brennan, MV Times.
Thank you.
Louisa Hofstadter, Vineyard Gazette.
Thank you, Louisa.
And I also had a note from the chat that Sam Houghton from WCAI Radio, is also recording.
Thank you, Sean. I'd like to have Bob Jones make an announcement. Oh, strike that, I'm so sorry. I'd like to have Bob Davis make an announcement relative to a longstanding board member. And I'm going to give the floor to him.
All right, good morning, everyone. So unfortunately, we need to start off this meeting on a somber note. We were all saddened to hear of the passing of George Balco on April 10th. George was into the Port Council in January 2009 and represented Tisbury for 12 years, stepping down at the end of 2020. During his time on the Port Council, George lent us his valuable expertise on a number of important projects, including the development and launch of the MV Woods Hole, the start of the Woods Hole Terminal Reconstruction Project, and the development of our fuel hedging program. George's wisdoms and insights made the Steamship Authority a better organization. He will be missed. Please join me in a moment of silence in memory of George, and I ask you, for those in the room, to please rise. Thank you.
George will indeed be missed. Item number 1 on the agenda is approval of the authority's March 15th, 2022 minutes of the meeting in public session. Do I have a motion?
I'll move that. I'll move that, Ms. Chairman. May I also make a brief comment about George?
Yes.
Jordan Munn.
Yes.
George's funeral will be at the St. Augustine Church in Vineyard Haven at 11 o'clock this Saturday. For anyone who's listening or anyone who'd like to attend, John Cahill and myself will be pallbearers. And I appreciate the remarks that were just made and the thoughts expressed for George. He was a very, very valued member of the community, the Port Council, and did a lot of work here for the town of Tisbury and the island as well. So thank you for that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
George was a consummate professional and gentleman, and his advice to us was invaluable. So I have a motion. Do I have a second on the minutes?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Oh, you know what? I think I need to do the remote. Excuse me. I have to make an announcement concerning remote participation. Pursuant to Section 20 of Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, and in line with social distancing guidelines followed during the COVID-19 pandemic, board members of the authority are participating remotely in today's meeting because their physical attendances today will be unreasonably difficult. All board members are participating in the meeting via Zoom video conferencing app, and all members will be clearly audible to each other. As a result of the members' remote participation in this meeting, any and all votes taken by the members today shall be by roll call vote. So may I have a roll call vote of the minutes, or is there any discussion prior thereto? Roll call vote.
Jeffrey, aye.
Jones, aye.
Malkin, aye.
Randy, aye.
And Tierney, aye. The next item on the agenda is the Port Council's report on their April 5th meeting. Is there someone here from the Port Council to do that, Mr. Davis?
Yes, John Cahill is here. Sean's bringing him over.
Hi, Mr. Cahill. The floor is yours. You need to, you're on mute.
How's
There
that?
we go. Perfect.
All right.
Hi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, the Port Council met on April 5th, and we covered many of the topics that you're going to cover today. I think one of the more meaningful topics that was discussed was the website. I just wanted to share that we had asked for, as soon as possible, that the design team present some storyboards so we have an understanding of what the direction or the user experience is, and we should see those in the coming weeks. There were no votes taken during that meeting, so I just wanted to share that with you. But before I get bumped off, I do have one ask, Madam Chair, of Bob Davis, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
All right.
You're free to
I think
ask.
this is, well, this is for the benefit of all of us, whether it's the Port Council, the Board of Governors. Bob, just a reminder for the architect of the Woods Hole Terminal building. He presented to us, I think, back in March, and during his presentation, he referred to many meetings that he had held with the Falmouth residents and Woods Hole residents. So we had asked him for a summary document of those meetings, because I think that will be helpful in our outreach, so that we can understand them. So what was held and why. And I'm not envisioning a lengthy document, just a 2-pager that says, the date, who we met with, what was discussed, and any outcome.
Yeah, actually, I think that may have been February, and we'll, I think it may have dropped off the radar. We'll do so and have that.
Right.
Thank you
All right,
very
other
much,
than
Mr.
that-
Cahill.
You're welcome. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 3 is the general manager's report.
Good morning. So we'll start off with the Woods Hole Terminal reconstruction project. And you may have noted, if it's okay with the board, instead of having the business summary underneath the general manager's report, whether we can, going forward, whether we just put it underneath the treasurer's report. If that's fine with everyone, but the agenda does call right now for the Woods Hole Terminal reconstruction project. So since the board last met, marine contractor J. Cashman Inc.'s crew and dive crew completed installing all the rebar cage inside the coffer dam for monopile number 24. They also started filling the coffer dam with concrete, and that was completed on March 18th, a couple days after the last board meeting. The divers then demobilized and left the site. Cashman's crew also repaired some of the high-density plastic on the monopile number 9 and slip 3. They completed the access to monopile number 24 and started removing their equipment and demobilizing the crane barge. We received the notification from them that the work is substantially complete at this point. And on Monday, April 4th, Cashman's barge departed the site and the slip is operational from a marine perspective. We do have we've had some supply chain issues on getting some of the ticket readers. So we're working on that, but otherwise it is operational. And thus far, we've sent out 193 community updates. And with that, I'll let Bill show you the progress.
As Bob said, good morning, everybody. As Bob said, Cashman is demobbed and essentially gone. There's a few people in the office, but and there's a little bit of electrical work connecting the ticket readers left, but I think we're done here with the marine contract. This is slip one as we speak. There's the gravity structure head off right, and you can see a portion of the pier. Next. That's a different view, a landside view of slip one with the south pier. Next. This is all three slips from the land side. You got two ferries in slips 3 and 2. Next. Okay, the original contract was 43 million. Change orders is about 16.3 million. As a percentage, it's 39%. The total contract is about, cost right now is at 59.4 million. The waterside cost estimate was 53.6 million. We're over by about just under 6 million. There are, since the substantial completion, there are a few line items, costs that will be subtracted, that went expended. So the final cost on the contract is yet to be determined by the treasurer. Any questions?
Mr. Malcolm?
Thank you. So I guess the question that I'd raise is, given the overruns that have been explained, but the significant overruns that we've had, could you give some thought as to what are the learnings that we've gained from this project so that the next time we get into a project like this, that we can use that to our advantage in the bidding process and scoping process?
I'll take the first stab at that. So obviously, one of the things that we've learned is that the marine environment is the variations we've had in this project. We had spots where we couldn't get below 20 feet and 10 feet to the side. We couldn't stop after 150 feet. So the other terminals that we've had done work at don't seem to have that same characteristics that we've identified here in Woods Hole. Obviously, putting together this package, the bid package and the budget, the contingency should have been much greater on what that project was, but it would not have prevented us from recommending going forward with the project. And sorry. The marine side of the facility was in dire need at the time, and it was time after 60 years to rebuild that facility. So, but I think in terms of exploration going forward, we did look at sea level rise and what those issues and then what climate change may be doing to the project, and incorporated that into it. And I think we'll be looking at more of that as we go forward with any modifications or in the future to other facilities. So.
Any other questions?
Okay. All right. And I guess the only thing I would mention here about the piece of this project, the design team continues to prepare the specification package for the landside portion of the project. A contract for the site work will be the first to be issued. We anticipate issuing a bid package in the coming months with the plan to award that contract in time, so that way site work can begin in September. A second specification package is being prepared for the building contracts. We anticipate that package will be ready later this summer to award in the fall, so that way construction on the buildings can begin beginning of 2023. There's no questions regarding that. We'll move to next, which is the website, and I'll ask Sean.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Sean.
A quick update before I turn it over to the folks from ADK to give you guys an update. We have concluded the focused innovation phase of the project, and we're now into building and evolving, which is when the fun stuff starts to happen and the new platform begins to take shape through a 2-week design and build sprints. And Sam Zoloff from ADK will bring you into a little bit more detail on that, but what tasks have been ongoing have been creating sort of the foundational design and user experience for the website in the beginning of wrapping up certain elements. Some user testing has been going on. Some is scheduled for this Friday that we sourced participants from the list of people who indicated they were willing to do so from last year's public survey. We've also been asking customers to volunteer for a conversation with ADK after booking online via purchase email. That was so successful we had to temporarily shut it off because Sam and the folks at ADK decided they wanted to be able to see their families and have meals. So that we're getting really good response on that. You have been provided with the monthly sprint report in your materials and also a copy of the presentation that Sam Zoloff, the head of the growth strategy at ADK Group, is going to present. He's going to review the discovery and innovation work done to date. And then we've also got other project leads on the call if they need to provide any input. But with that, Sam, I'll turn it over to you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Sean. I will share my screen. A short presentation to walk through. And yeah, I'm excited to connect today and share a little update on what we've been up to, specifically focusing on the revealing reality phase. So that's the plan for today, share the progress update. As a quick reminder, our overall goal of the project is to help Steamship Authority differentiate and grow by delivering a best-in-class digital platform to exceed the expectations for your travelers, the people who use Steamship Authority day in and day out for transportation and other needs. In order to do that, our objectives are to help minimize booking time, minimize the customer effort involved in booking, minimize manual admin processes on the Steamship Authority side, and maximize intuitive interactions, maximize happy customers, and ultimately maximize sales. And to deliver on that, we are working towards a website, an online reservations dashboard, a mobile app, and an underlying digital platform that is scalable and secure. So what is revealing reality? It's the first step of any large product engagement. It has 4 main goals. The first one is to lower risks inherent in any software development project. The second one is to help align the project team around what problems specifically we are solving, help prioritize those. The next one is to begin to understand the opportunity, uncover the moments of surprise and delight and details that we can add to make this a truly seamless and differentiated experience for your travelers. And we are also working to shape the future, to look beyond the immediate pain points and needs and technology and solutions and opportunities that we have today, and begin to look at how we can continue to grow Steamship Authority going forward.
Oh.
Sorry? Okay. Okay. So like Sean said, you have myself on the call. We also have Rob Erskine, Cassie McQuiggan and Alex Ensley on the call, but we are a small portion of the team that was involved in the Revealing Reality phase. It was multidisciplinary and highly collaborative. What this is missing out on is the Steamship Authority team itself was heavily involved in this process, highly collaborative, as well as travelers that we've been able to talk to get their input and feedback and get a better understanding of their needs, their pain points, their goals. Getting a little into the nuts and bolts of what we did, what that team did towards those objectives and goals. I'll start with the design discovery work. So we broke it down into 6 buckets around understanding the users, understanding the current state, exploring content and SEO, benchmarking the user experience compared to direct competitors, as well as category alternatives, and some companies outside of the direct category, travel category. We also worked on brand and creative with a focus on accessibility, and ultimately culminated in future state alignment here in relatively low detail. I don't expect anyone to be able to read this, but this slide deck does contain more details and slides at the end. Just did not want to bore anyone right now. We supplemented that with technology discovery work, which was similarly bucketed into 3 core categories. The first one was understanding the current state, looking at the CMS and the API model, looking at focusing specifically on the alerts and the waitlist, and then shifting to aligning on what a future state should look like in order to be compliant, be scalable, be easy to use, be high performance, and not least importantly, be secure. So what did that look like? There's a lot going on this slide, so I'll take a second to breathe here. But what that culminated was 3 main recommendations. One is what's called a Jamstack architecture. This is a leading edge technical ecosystem that is faster, more secure, and easier to manage than the current one. I say leading edge, it's different than bleeding edge, meaning it's on the forefront, it's heavily adopted, but it has lower risk than something that is fresh off, like from the annals of forums and Reddit posts or something like that. Another was moving towards Contentful as a content management solution. This empowers the marketing team and other core team and other web experience owners within Steamship Authority to have more control and ease of management of their digital experiences, spanning both the website and the mobile experience. And then finally, a mobile app solution that simplifies the maintenance and management of it, whilst continuing to provide a best of breed experience. So looping all these together, we also aligned on 4 product objectives to use as our North Star. One is that hassle-free planning and purchasing. Another is functional and delightful personalization. The third is intuitive and powerful account management. And the 4th is secure, performant, and scalable architecture. So the technical solution underpinning everything. And ultimately, we're doing all of this in order to increase the amount of happy trips that were planned online, where happy means it was an efficient and delightful experience. Trips are ticket purchases that result in travel, and online includes the website, the mobile experience, etc. And that is the high-level summary of Revealing Reality to date.
If anyone's got any questions for Sam or myself, I'm happy to take them now. Mr. Malkin?
Thank you. You can call me Jim. Thanks for that. And I'm occasionally accused of being direct, so I might as well be direct. Thanks to the presentation or pitch, which seemed to be somewhat generic to me. I'm a little concerned about a couple things. One would be the ongoing cost of using things like Jamstack and other tools that would be part of this. But more importantly, from the point of view of the island representatives, our biggest concern is the ability for people to know about ticketing, how to get them, about our programs, excursion programs, space availability, so reservations. And then equally important is the state of travel on any given day. So it's the communication to them electronically through this website about what's going on with the boat that they're on. If there's an issue with it, what they should do and what should they expect? To my knowledge, a goal of increasing our business was not part of the purview of this project, although I may have missed that. So I appreciate the overview. I appreciate the effort and the team and the rest of that. Interview of the island, we're looking for this tool to improve the user experience in terms of purchasing passage and knowing about passage for the people who are going back and forth. Thank you.
Sam, I can address that. Could you stop your screen share, please, so we can bring the.
Sure thing.
I'll launch in, Sam, and you can certainly chime in, but Jim, that was all at the forefront of everything we did during Revealing Reality. And what Sam's not showing you are things that are still being baked right now around the user experience and the ticketing flow. We've only recently had workshops to sort of validate the new flow of purchasing on the website. That's still under development, and the overall look of the user dashboard, so what people on the islands will be able to, and all of our customers will be able to use to find out about their reservations, about their account, how and where user service alerts get displayed. We've had lots of conversations about that. So all the things you talked about have been discussed over dozens and dozens of workshops and probably hundreds of hours so far. So we're giving a high level overview, and Sam did that at my direction. So if it was too high level, then that's on me and I apologize. But all of, the things you talked about are things that we're focusing on in addition to being able to, improve the booking experience and improve sales, which was part of the RFP, because obviously we serve islanders and visitors alike. So we have multiple competing constituencies, as Sam and the folks at ADK have learned all about over the last couple of months. And the constituencies don't always agree on what the goals are. So all of that stuff, all of the things you mentioned are every single one of them has been top of mind so far.
And if I may, I think the other piece of it in terms of driving sales is that with the mobile app, we anticipate that we'd be able to capture the market for our customers to be using that for their e-ticketing purposes. And, those are customers that would be standing in lines and ticket offices otherwise. So, I think that's, a point of that increasing sales element of this project. So.
Okay, the only other I would say then, thank you for that, is directed to Sam. Architecture, all the stuff is neat. Simplicity is key.
Mr. Malcolm,
Simplicity.
Mr. Malcolm, I don't know if anybody else is having trouble hearing you, but you're breaking out every other word.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time hearing you. Okay. Simplicity is key, Sam, I think is what he's trying to say.
Yes, I caught that. And I can understand that the slide I shared may not scream simplicity. However, that's been addressed in very fine detail between our technical team and the technical team at Steamship Authority to ensure that ease of use, ease of management, and scalability, that was one of the words I used, is underpinned by the simplicity of the architecture. The route that we are going forward is actually, in a general term, untangling things to make it easier to manage and easier to build on top of in the future as needs arise.
Okay, thank you for that. And simplicity was the key I was looking for. I know the Washington State Ferries is a very simple system.
Still can't,
Can't hear me at all? No,
very soft.
please go on.
All right. Mr. Jones?
Yeah, I would just like to chime in on the simplicity thing. And, you know, this morning I was going all around the website here to try to find the hearing that was scheduled at 9 o'clock. I had called Bob during the week because I couldn't find, you know, where the notice was. And I was told it was under news or something. I looked under news, I didn't see it. And you know, right now you go to about, and then you go to agendas and things like that. But the bottom line is, when you do this, I would try to speak in everyday language that people who are not computer savvy will understand. Now you're talking about a dashboard. I didn't know what a dashboard was other than my automobile. And I went to another organization I had and had treasurer's report and made a dashboard out of it. I had to ask them, I said, what in the world is this? But you know, I'm just relatively computer savvy, and just say that. So the simpler that you can make it, and the more obvious tracking of where you place these things is paramount. I'm from the town of Barnstable, and they redid their website, and they had just basically the first page is kind of like tabs, you know, the departments, town council, this thing and that thing. So that to me is pretty easy. Wasn't the prettiest thing in the world, but it was completely utilitarian and pretty easy to navigate. And I haven't seen one that's super friendly that I can just go around and find exactly what I wanted at any particular time. So I'm just going to have to jump on that simplicity, because that answers the question.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Randy?
I have a concern about the transition from the old to the new website whenever that happens, because I'm old enough to remember the previous version to what we have now, and how there was a period of time when the old website was active while the new one was also active, because people, you know, the transition was tough. So, you know, is it something where the old one is just switched off and the new one is switched on and everything just kind of goes? I mean, I hope that's the case. I'm just, you know, I know you guys are planning on this, and, you know, that's one of your concerns, but I just wanted to voice that as mine.
That's a good concern, Rob, and certainly that would be my intention, is that the switch flips, and I think that would be ADK's intention as well, but we're a good couple months away from being to that point. But that I would certainly not want two sites to be running concurrently, and I think Sam is nodding in emphatic agreement with me. So
I will just add, in addition to that, and in some of the conversations I've had actually just yesterday, people have expressed that they feel almost attached to the current layout of the site, because they've invested so much time and energy to it, to figuring out all the nuances and intricacies of how it works. So we are taking frequent users' experience into account. And while our transition will be seamless, we will aim to not have two websites or experiences running at the same time, and don't foresee a reason to. We'll also be working to make sure that the new experience is communicated properly to people who use Steamship Authority day in and day out.
Malcolm?
Thank you. One more thing, and then I'll stop. Because this is really, really vital to the island in terms of communication to traveling passengers. The people who live here and use this service as their highway to and from the rest of the Commonwealth. So the state of the roads is important. You know, what's open, what's closed, what's snowbound, et cetera, and one of the things, Sam, I'd encourage you to have your team keep an eye on with Sean is we already have some issues with communication internally in the Steamship Authority and getting that to customers. people in terminals not having the same message, people on the boats not having the same message. So in terms of what's going on with travel, you need to make sure that we don't get into a garbage in, garbage out situation, but that we can reflect the reality of the situation. And that has to do with the information coming into you to put on the website, which is something the authority should work on and should be part of your process. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Sam, and everyone from ADK for being on. You'll hear more from myself certainly, and from his team as well.
There was a question from Mr. Cahill.
There was, yes, thank you, Ms. Tierney, I saw that. He asked if ADK had looked at Washington State ferries for simplicity. That was one of the sites we've looked at as part of our discovery, yes.
Could I also ask a question?
Oh, sure. You're the chair, you can do whatever you want to.
Thank you. Sam, did you happen to look at C Streak's website? I happen to find that incredibly easy to use. I mean, I don't know if you share the same approach, but to put a little plug in for transportation from New Bedford, it's quite a website.
Yes, yeah, it did stand out in our review, and it was one of the websites we had taken a look at in terms of understanding how different websites approach a similar problem and what we can learn and how we can also provide, what we can learn.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you so much, Sam.
Thank you all for your time. Have a wonderful day.
All right, before we remiss in pointing out who's in the bind here with me, so obviously John is here, Terrence, Courtney Olivera, Mark Emerson, Angela Sampson, Allison Fletcher, Angela Campbell, and Janice Kanovic, and Bill Cludier has gone back to Woodsall at this point. So. And with that, next is the MV Nantucket Dry Dock. So I'll ask Mark to come up and update you on the status of that dry dock.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning, Mark.
The Nantucket undocked at Thames Shipyard Pierside this past Saturday. This is their dress rehearsal prior to flooding. Next slide, please. This is a picture of the new shaft seal installation attached to the main engine reduction gears. Next slide, please. This is just prior to the rudders being positioned back up into the carrier bearing on the underside of the vessel. Next slide, and we did some extensive coatings of the outer areas on the O2 level for structural steel protection. Slide, so highlights of the Nantucket deck coatings, new fire detection system installation, blast and coat of the exterior hull, propulsion shaft repairs, and rudder overhauls. So the financial snapshot, the contract value is $1.75 million. We have $330,000 in credits, with more credits coming in the pipeline. $71,842 in change orders, and a grand total credit and change orders $1.79 million. I believe we'll be very close to right on budget on conclusion. Any questions?
Any questions? Thank you, Mark.
And next, we want to give you an update on the repairs that are taking place in Oak Bluffs.
Okay, this is kind of a plan view snapshot of the Oak Bluffs facility. Next slide. So this is a plan view of the structural areas which have been under repair for the past 2 years. Next. This part of the project It has to do with the pile wraps. We identified a number of pile wraps, 236 to be wrapped, and they've been done to date, 100% complete. Next slide. This is just another view of other wrappings to date. Next slide. So the contract value, 1.419 million, pile wraps, 236 have been wrapped, 100% completed. We're installing 6 more piles. This has to do with the cement jacket to support the areas, and will be completed next week, and the demo by the end of April. Any questions, anyone?
Mr. Jones?
Mark, I'm trying to figure out what you're wrapping those piles with. Do you have an inner wrap and then you're sealing it with, it looks like a rubber membrane of some sort?
I believe there's a double wrap in there, and I really want to give that to Bill Cloutier. He's not here, he's overseeing that project, but yes, it is, and the whole intent is to starve oxygen content of any water which is inside, which would eradicate the worm borers.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Jeffrey?
What estimate do you have that for the longevity of those pilings now that the wrapping's been completed?
This has been a number of phases we've done. We've done phase 1, phase 2 in 2020, and the wrappings here. So we have a process, we've addressed there are 400, approximately approaching 400 piles. In 2020, we addressed 43 with replacement, and we have done 279, 200 piles have been wrapped. So that's a total about 322 out of approximately 400, or 80%. We're looking for a 20 to 25 year life extension of the pier as a result of our undertakings.
Thank you, Mark. Any other questions? Thank you so much, Mark. Oh, excuse me, Mr. Davis?
I would be remiss if I didn't point out that, the Oak Bluffs Pier itself is exposed to, most of the elements where it's positioned. So these efforts to try to preserve the facility as long as we can, but it is something that requires annual maintenance on. That's part of the program that we have. So.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, next on the agenda.
Thank you.
All right, so next on the agenda is the preliminary draft of the proposed 2023 summer and fall operating schedules. The proposed 2023 operating schedules from May 18th to June, operating schedules from May 18th to June 16th would start one day later and end 5 days earlier than in 2022 for both the Vineyard and the Nantucket routes. The proposed operating schedules from June 17th to September 5th would start 5 days earlier and then 2 days earlier than in 2022 for both routes. The proposed 2023 operating schedules for September 6th to October 23rd would start 2 days earlier and end 4 days later than in 2022. And the proposed October 24th to January 3rd, 2024 schedule would be similar to the schedule for both routes, except for start 4 days later and end 1 day earlier. So on the Vineyard route, the early summer schedule, which is that May 18th, June 16th schedule, we have the Island Home, the Martha's Vineyard, Governor, and Woods Hole assigned to that schedule. The Nantucket would take the place of the Martha's Vineyard and the Island Home during their spruce-up periods. Each boat would be triple crewed and operate up to 7 round trips a day. The summer schedule, which is the June 17th to September 5th schedule, it's the same schedule and crewing assignments as in 2022, being the Island Home, Martha's Vineyard, Governor, and motor vessel Nantucket. Each of them would be triple crewed and up to 7 trips a day. The MV Sankaty would operate a single crew Monday through Friday, and can operate up to 4 round trips in the day. Late summer, the schedule, again, is the same as in 2022. We have the Island Home, the Nantucket, Governor, and Katama, each being triple crewed and running up to 7 trips a day. In the fall, the same schedule of crewing assignments. The Island Home, the Nantucket, Katama, all triple crewed, 7 trips a day. The Martha's Vineyard will be replaced in Nantucket once it completes its dry dock and repair period, which I think is November 18th or something like that. Then on the Nantucket route, the early summer schedule, the Eagle, the Gayhead, and the Sankaty would be assigned to the schedule. The Nantucket would take the place of the Sankaty during Memorial Day weekend, and each boat would be triple crewed, which allows them to run up to 3 trips a day. The summer schedule, again, the same as in 2022, would be the Eagle, the Woods Hole, and the Gayhead, up to 3 trips a day, and the Katama would replace the Gayhead during its scheduled dry dock and repair period. Late summer would be the Eagle, the Woods Hole, and the Gayhead, all triple crewed, 3 trips a day. The fall would be the Eagle, the Woods Hole, being triple crewed, and the Nantucket would replace the Eagle when the Eagle goes into its repair. And then the other piece of this is the high-speed schedule. So the 2023 summer schedule for the INO would start 1 day later and end 4 days earlier than the 2022. The fall schedule would start 4 days later and end 1 day later than the 2022. And there'd be no changes in the trip times, the quantity of trips, crewing assignments for the schedule. So the schedule would run from March 29th, 2023 through January 3rd, 2024. So this is a preliminary draft. We'll be advertising for public comment on these. As I pointed out, we have a presentation we can show you, but by and large, a couple changes because of repair periods. The schedule is the same as what we have here for 2022, and it's essentially the same schedule that we've been operating now for the past 4 years. So, Sean, next slide. So this shows the Vineyard route. The first 2 were the winter and spring schedules that we came to the board last month over. So the following 4 are the schedules that we're presenting now. And you'll see that by and large, it's the same, just taking into account the repair periods of when some of these vessels go to repair. And then next, again, the Nantucket route, the first 2 are ones that we presented last month, and the following 4 are what we're presenting now. And it is essentially the same schedule as we've been operating here, with the exception of when dry docks and repairs occur. So there's no vote is required today. We'll be looking to advertise this, and we'll be coming back at a future date with any recommendations.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Rainey?
On the Nantucket route, I know that there are freight vessels that carry hazardous material, and so they're not advertised as available on the website or for booking. But there are some that fall under sort of this weird category where they're not advertised or they don't show up on the website. Is there a way that you can make more of those, excuse me, more of those available, into the public as opposed to, I'm not sure what the process is, but we do have a lot of people that are surprised that there are so many boats running on the Nantucket route, and because they can't see them.
Yeah, so the issue we have there is because of the Katama and the Gayhead have 140 passenger capacity, and once you start putting in a number of cars on the weekends, we end up having potential for passenger cutoffs, and there's not nearly enough interior seating for the 140 as it is. think this interior seating is probably closer to 40 as opposed to 140 on those. So we rely on people remaining in their vehicles on those conditions. We also have the issues where it's not hazardous, where we still have to, if there's a trucks on it, we have draft restrictions that could change that passenger capacity from being 140 down to 16. So we need to be cognizant of that as well. But I think I think what you're trying to point out is that on the weekends when it is neither of those latitude, the hazardous or freight boat, whether we put it on there and whether we're able to designate it as being a extremely limited passenger capacity and amenities as well. So.
Mr. Malcolm?
Yeah, I just echo what Mr. Rainey said. We have the same issue. And it seems what is of most concern to the travelers on the island is not their ability to walk on as passengers on these boats, but when they see boats that they didn't see on the schedule and there's space available for vehicles, and they wound up getting loaded on from standby lines when, in their opinion, had they known, they could have gotten on that boat or booked that boat earlier. So that it's not so much the walk-ons, it's the issue over here anyway, as it is this availability for vehicles, pre-bookings.
Actually, on the Nantucket run, it's this time of year it's simpler because we do have, if we do end up with those draft restrictions, we're able to accommodate the customer's automobile on the vessel, and then they take the INO back over and they meet the boat when it gets in. So over on the Vineyard run, we don't have that same. They'd have to wait for the next traditional ferry to come. So we don't have driver services on this route. So on the Vineyard route, but it is something that we're cognizant of. And when it is just a automobile load, we'll look at making sure that those are available. The issue we had previously was that at the end of the day, the freight boats were the last ones running, and because of that, we had to run those vessels even though there was no vehicle traffic because they were on published schedules, and so that's why we eliminated them from being on the published schedules. So that way, if there's an opportunity to conserve fuel by consolidating trips, we're able to do so.
Thank you.
Other questions?
I was just going to add real quick that I keep an eye out a week or two in advance as well. And if I notice that there aren't trucks booked on certain freight boats, I will open them up to the general public to book on as well. So especially on the weekends on the Nantucket route, because I know that's kind of your prime real estate right there. So.
Thank you, Allison. Next topic.
All right, so next we have a request for licensing of freight transportation services between New Bedford and Nantucket. 41 North Offshore LLC on March 24th submitted a proposal in support of a request for a license agreement from the Steamship Authority to operate a tug and barge freight service pilot program between New Bedford and Nantucket. 41 North Offshore is proposing this pilot program to determine the feasibility of offering a tug and barge freight service between New Bedford and Nantucket on an ongoing basis. For this, they partnered with United Parcel Service for the pilot, with UPS engaged as the initial seed customer. The pilot would run from about 5-month period from mid-May 2022 to mid-October 2022, and consist up to 70 round trips, each trip carrying an average of 3 tractor trailer equivalent units. Loading and offloading in New Bedford would occur at Fish Island Terminal, located on Fish Island, New Bedford Harbor, and at Nantucket at the Steamship Authority's Nantucket Terminal. So in accordance with the authorities licensing the private vessel transportation services, advertisements and notices were posted. And earlier today at 9 o'clock, a public hearing was held regarding that request. There's a half dozen people who had gotten onto that hearing, but there was no public comment submitted by any of the attendees. At the April 5th meeting of the Port Council, Mr. Reese from Fairhaven noted that Fairhaven was concerned about the trucks would take the exit off I-95, which leads them down Main Street. And it's already crowded, a crowded road, and want to include that some efforts be made to direct the trucks to exit. That exit leads to State Road 18 in New Bedford. It's a quicker access to the Fish Island facility. It's also on the correct side of the bridge in the harbor there. So if the bridge is up, it's more convenient. So. And I do want to point out that as part of it, we did receive one written submission, and I'd like to read that in, if I may. It was received from Representative William Strauss, who represents the 10th Barnstable District. He's also chair of the House Transportation Committee. And it reads, Dear Mr. Davis, I am writing to offer my comment on the above referenced application seeking to operate tug and barge freight service between New Bedford and Nantucket. I fully appreciate the need of UPS to adequately address its lack of freight options to Nantucket this season. And for that reason, I support the efforts of the applicant to offer the transportation services described in the proposal dated March 24, 2022. However, I believe it should be made clear that any approval of the proposal is limited to transportation of the cargo of the same type and kind as is contemplated by UPS. I am concerned, however, that this unique situation not result in a change in the type of items transported off island to the Port of New Bedford. For that reason, I strongly urge the authority to include any license agreement, express language barring 41 North Offshore or any sub-licensee from transporting any waste, refuse, garbage, or recyclables under any immediate license to be granted. Thank you very much for your time and considerations of this concern. And that was the only comment that I had. I did see earlier that there's representatives from 41 North Offshore, so I don't know whether they'd like to speak or not before the members deliberate on this. Jonah Mikatowicz. He's ready to see.
Could you identify them, Bob, please?
Jonah Mikatowicz is principal with 41 North Offshore.
Yeah, good morning, board. Jonah Mikatowicz, 41 North Offshore. Appreciate you all considering our application here. You know, our hope with this application is pending its approval, it'll be an opportunity to see if tug and barge transportation from New Bedford to Nantucket is a viable transportation solution. What we're really looking for.
Excuse me just a second. Is there a way to see you video? Can you put your video on?
I will bring him over. Just 1 second.
Assuming he has video.
Assuming he has video, yes.
There we go.
Here we go.
Morning.
Morning.
So our hope here is that the potential service tug and barge from New Bedford to Nantucket, that this 5-month period will give us an opportunity to really determine if this is a viable transportation solution to supplement the Steamship Authority. There's a number of different variables that come into play, transporting freight on a barge versus on the ferry out of Hyannis, distance, weather, and then there's some economic factors as well. So the thought here is during the steamship's busy period this summer, utilize this period in conjunction with the support of UPS and some of their traffic to get to the island. To determine if it's a solution. And then if it is, from there to try to work to refine it and come back to the board and see if it's a solution that benefits the overall island going forward. So appreciate your consideration.
Mr. Davis, is this on for a vote today?
Yes, it would be. So we held the hearing at 9 o'clock this morning, and there was no public comment received. We've had the 2 weeks of advertisements of this. So I think in terms of, this being the middle of April, I think Jonah needs some time to make modifications to his barge so that way he could access the transfer bridge to be able to facilitate the transfer of the vehicles. So I think we do need to be voting on it. I will point out that there's some items that I think if the board was so inclined to go ahead with approving this, that we need to be working with Jonah in terms of the arrival loading times of the barge. There's times where we use the area in front of the south slip to stage vehicles for that 6:30 in the morning trip. So, but I think those are all items that we can work with Jonah on in terms of the logistics if the board is so inclined to approve this.
Mr. Jeffrey?
Well, I'm in favor of the concept. I'm just a little concerned that we don't have a draft license to review as a board. Are you asking for our approval to kind of give management a blank check to write a license? I'm just, without having a draft license in front of us, I don't know exactly how we can make an informed decision, especially given Representative Strauss's concerns. How do we address that kind of just in a board motion at the moment?
I agree with Mr. Jeffrey. Have we reviewed 41 North's financials or anything like that, Bob?
At this point, we have not. They've indicated there'd be some available if we so needed, on the basis of some of the past licenses that we've been providing to the passenger ferries. It's an option that we have that's available. If that's something the board so desires.
I'm totally, speaking as New Bedford's representative, I'm totally in support of the concept overall. I think it's premature to ask us to vote on this though. And I wouldn't even mind, having and asking my fellow board members to come to another special meeting. But I'd like to see it, as Mr. Jeffrey said, the proposed license agreement. And I'd also like to see the backing and the financials of 41 North, and just to satisfy ourselves that we are taking into consideration Mr. Strauss's letter. So I understand that 41 North needs to get on board, and the timing is of the essence, and I don't mind asking my colleagues to go to another meeting, but I think I'd like to have those things in play first. I don't know how my other members feel. Mr. Malkin?
Mr. Malkin was giving you a thumbs up. I'm perfect. Number one, I think that this is important for Nantucket in terms
New
of
Bedford.
Pardon me?
And New Bedford.
Well, in terms of Nantucket getting their UPS, et cetera, their unnamed common carrier, et cetera, deliveries. So time is of the essence, but I think to make an informed decision, we need some due diligence on the company. We need to see a draft agreement, and we need to see how Representative Strauss's concerns get dealt with in that agreement. So yes, I'm happy to come back at any time and review this.
Mr. Ranney, did you have a comment?
Yeah, no, I agree with everything that's being said. I am in favor of the concept. I've got some logistical questions, and a question of, are we charging for this license fee? I mean, are we charging per truck? Are we charging anything? That's not, I haven't been made aware of any of that. So I do have questions, but I'm in favor of the concept.
Mr. Jones, did I see your hand up, sir?
Yes, I'm in favor of the concept too, and for the town of Barnstable, very favorable actions to take trucks off the road. So from that point, I've got several questions I think the board has got to answer itself. Now we'll have, no matter what, we're gonna lose dollars. When we lose ridership, we lose dollars. Somebody else is taking, the ridership elsewhere. I wonder with Representative Strauss's comments about the hazmat and the trash and things like that, which I never even thought of, when I saw this application. And the only question I have is his stance universal when we're looking for a long-range solution for the vineyard to get rid of hazmat and truck it to the mainland? How is that going to affect? I mean, if one service he says no, is that universal across the board? So I think that question needs to be answered. And then I think we need to take a pencil and paper to see exactly what the finances implication will be to our overall bottom line. If we take, 1,000 trucks, off of the road, and it goes to a carrier, and then you have another service we're hoping that might go in, and how much will that affect the bottom line? We have a budget, and the boats will, once we set a schedule, will run one way or the other. The big ferries, their money is made with both passengers, freight, and automobiles. So I think I would really like to have some sort of perspective as to answering what the impact of losing that ridership will be. And I also have other logistical questions if the boats are weathered in and stuff like that in Nantucket, do we have the dock space to put up the boats and moor the boats? And there's other things here, but I would definitely be in favor of another meeting and a little bit more informative of what this will be. And I know the need for moving faster on this, for the applicant's sake. But nevertheless, we've got to, look at our own dollars. And I think we have to look further than just what this pilot program is. In other words, what is the pilot comes back and they say to us next year, this has been overwhelmingly successful, which I hope it is. But now we have to look at our schedules and our ridership, and what is the loss, and it won't be made up with license fees, that's for sure. So those are just some of my concerns, and I'll leave it at that.
Any other questions? So, Mr. Terrence, do we need to take a vote, or can we table this?
What I'm hearing is that folks want to table it, and that's fine. So what that does, we'll take the results of this morning's hearing. We'll reach out to Jonah and get the other information that the board's requested with regards to financials and what have you. I'll sit down with our traditional license agreement, which was my intent, and I will formulate an agreement for this forthcoming period from May to October. I'll incorporate Representative Strauss's comments as well regarding the refuse and the waste. And we'll have a draft for you to take a look at when we convene again. And again, I can have that done relatively quickly in the next, day or two, and then we'll reach out to folks and get another date on the calendar. And hopefully that will be the only agenda item. We don't know what's going to pop up between now and then, but that's what we'll do. That sounds good.
Yeah, so I think
No,
we
I
need,
know that 41 North, I just checked the Secretary of State's website, so they've been around for a while. That would be good to know. A little bit of historical background of, what they do, who they are, that type of thing. Okay?
so, following the meeting, we'll check everyone's schedule to see availability, and, we need 48 hours before we can convene again, so we'll get that and get that meeting noticed and get the, get a draft, and Jonah afterwards to talk to you about the financials and the like, of what they need, what you have available.
Mr. Mikowitz, I don't think by any stretch of the imagination that, you're getting a negative response from the board. I want to make sure you know that. You're not getting a negative response from the board. We're just like, it's been sort of rushed, and we just like the opportunity to have a little bit more information before we take a vote of this nature.
Absolutely, completely understood.
Okay, thank you.
Very good.
All right.
Next.
All right, just a quick update on the issuance of a request for proposal to provide freight service, transportation services for the island of Martha's Vineyard. Want to just give it a quick update. So on Monday, March 21st, calls and or emails were sent of the availability of the RFP to 12 recipients. We also placed ads in the local newspapers and numerous marine publications such as Marine Link, Boats and Harbors, Maritime Reporter, and Marine Log. The marine publications have all will be published for April and May publications. In addition, Marine Log generated an email blast that went out to approximately 20,000 subscribers of their publication. When they received the email, it includes a nice colorful display of our notice and how to obtain the RFP. Prior to the email blast, we had 11 companies that requested a copy of the RFP. Within minutes of the first email blast going out on April 6th, a half dozen additional companies contacted procurement for a copy of the RFP. So today we have over 20 requests for the RFP. They range from all over the world. One company from Turkey that requested the package. So there's another email blast I'll be going out, I think later this week. Meanwhile, Steve Sayers, who's out of country at the moment, did have a call with the New Bedford Port Authority. We afforded them a copy of the bid package and asked for their comments. So they contacted him about some comments that they had. There are two elements of the proposal that they felt were missing, namely identifying the benefits to the community and identifying the impact mitigation efforts. With regards to the benefits to the community, they were looking for, in terms of could it be measured in jobs created or minimum vendor sourcing guarantees, the use of local minority-owned DBE businesses in the New Bedford area. In terms of mitigation, they were looking for to have the potential applicants include something along the lines of consideration for mitigation plans because of the increased truck traffic, monitoring programs, atmospheric emissions, particularly in the cargo area, in hazardous materials. So we're looking to incorporate that into those concerns into the RFP package. We'll be issuing an addendum to the package. But I don't think it changes the timeline here. We end up having the timeline includes the deadline still is August 2nd for submission. September 30th would be completion of the evaluations. Opening of the financials would be on September 30th as well. And then we'd, by the end of October, we'd be ranking the finalists in the negotiations of any specific revisions to the license agreement and the award of the license. So just an update as to where we stand on that. But it has, the ads did generate quite a few companies contacting us for the RFP package. Mr. Malcolm?
Hi, thank you. I know this is very, very early for the board, but would you please keep in mind as you go through the process, one, the comments that Mr. Jones just made about the 40 runs package, which is the impact on the Steamship Authority's financials in terms of what this will involve. And two, the comments that we received from Representative Strauss, I'm sure would also be directed towards this operation as well. So those two things should be part of your process going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malcolm. Any other comments? Next topic, please.
Next topic, and have Mark come up here as well. March 2021, the Steamship Authority tasked Marine Safety Consultants, Inc. With performing a fleet useful life functional obsolescence survey of its vessels. This survey was intended to build upon the surveys prepared in 2012 and again in 2018 by Marine Safety Consultants, or MSC. The initial survey that we had done back in 2012 was conducted in what was then the early stages of a beginning of a vessel construction project. The 2018 survey was conducted to determine if any of our preservation measures that we've undertaken were reflected in the condition of our fleet. And this most recent survey was commissioned as part of our due diligence for a vessel replacement program, but also to determine whether the efforts that we're making on vessel preservations are directed appropriately. So starting in the summer of 2021, including in December, Marine Safety Consultants conducted physical ship visits on all the authority's fleet. Some surveys were conducted while the vessels were in Fairhaven repair facility, others during dry dock periods, and others while the vessel was in line service. Marine Safety Consultants employed a survey methodology specific for the SSA vessels, focusing on 31 areas of interest and concern. They report that the level of cooperation that they received from the vessel crews and from staff during this enabled the surveyors to access all the compartments and spaces on the vessels, and they had unlimited access. So Marine Safety Consultants reports that historically documented factors that affect the vessel's life are, but not limited to, the vessel's age, the construction materials and methods, the scaffoldings, which is the framing that's the vessel is built upon, including the size and thickness of the construction materials, machinery, the area of service, the sustainability of consistent and age escalation maintenance costs, and regulatory constraints. While the Marine Safety Consultants reports has, quote, the average lifespan of an ocean commercial vessel averages 25 to 30 years. Beyond this, vessel maintenance costs escalate to a point where the cost to operate may outweigh operational commercial advantages. At some point of extended usage, the risk and cost may outweigh the vessel's useful life, end quote. And I point that out because as a point of reference, the average age of the 30s fleet is currently over 34 years old. So the report, which is included in your packet, not surprisingly, they report the primary concerns that they have in remaining useful life is with 2 of the 3 freight boats, namely the Katama and the Gayhead. The keels for those vessels were both laid in 1981. So while the useful life can be extended through a rigorous maintenance program, there comes a time when the cost of repairs or replacement parts is higher than the cost for a new, or when the vessel is no longer able to provide the service as originally designed, equipment becomes obsolete, parts are no longer available for repair. So as part of our due diligence for the replacement project, an additional study is being undertaken on alternative propulsion systems, and that was commissioned with LA Bay Design Group. Their report is expected to be finalized and presented at next month's meeting. But based upon this, the previous surveys, as well as the staff's firsthand knowledge of the fleet, it's not totally unexpected for MSCs to identify the freight boats as having a shortened useful life in the fleet. And to that end, the staff has been performing some investigation into potential opportunities to acquire and modify available offshore vessels similar to the 3 freight boats for service. With that, the downturn in the offshore oil exploration, a significant number of OSVs have been laid up in place for sale. So unless the board instructs otherwise, the staff will continue to investigate opportunities to, including having a condition survey performed on some of the available OSVs and working with a naval architect on conversion costs and timelines. So I think we have a table here showing the useful life report from snapshot from Marine Safety Consultants report. John's bringing it up. So next. So the report shows the vessel when it was built, some cases when it was acquired by the authority, any retrofits or mid-lights that were performed. Useful life functional obsolescence is ULFO. So you'll see here with the Katama and the Gayhead and the Sankaty, they identified those as having a useful life of 3 to 5 years on each of them. They're 40 to 41 years old at this point. And they've also identified some of the issues that they see with the vessels going forward in terms of steel replacements and maintaining the double bottoms. Also in terms of what's taking place in terms of machinery and the like, some of which is, if not obsolete, will soon be obsolete, and it'll make it even harder to get replacement parts.
Yeah, just like that in particular on the Gayhead and the Katama, the bow thrusters are in the last part of being supported by Harbor Master, the manufacturer. We look at that being a critical component that would either need to be replaced in the upcoming 5-year period or a new vessel acquisition.
So with regards to
Max, say that again about the Harbor Master. I didn't understand what that was about.
The Harbor Master is a manufacturer of the bow thruster that's in the Gayhead and the Katama. And they are down to one service engineer remaining, and they have not supported by adding other engineers. So we're having trouble getting service to it and expect that that whole business will be sold off or downgraded completely.
Next slide. So the condition of the other vessels, the governor, although it's 68 years young right now, actually has a longer useful life expectancy than the other three freight boats. We did repower the vessel back in 2011, new generators a couple of years ago. The other vessels, the Eagle, they're looking at that in terms of 14 years, 15 years, but a part of that again just becomes a matter of how frequently we need to be putting efforts into it. I think the big piece there is they're talking about a potential need to have to repower that vessel at some point going forward. Obviously, the Island Home being one of our newer vessels, obviously has one no longer useful life. Next. The Martha's Vineyard, again, about 20 years of useful life because of the bid-life refurbishment that we've done. The Nantucket, a motor vessel Nantucket would be another vessel that we need to be looking at in terms of its, actually the keel was laid in 1973. We took delivery of it in 1974. So we're fast approaching 50 years of life on that vessel as well. And as you know, Mark is, in terms of the preservation methods, preservation that we've been trying to do in terms of preserving the steel on that vessel, we will be coming to a need at some point to make a determination as to whether it's worthwhile to continue to replace the steel or replace the vessel. But it's not the most immediate need based on this study. And the next. They also did the INO in terms of its status.
And just one other comment, it's besides the obsolescence part of it is our vehicles have grown larger as time has gone on, and in such vessels such as Nantucket, the width of the lanes, it's getting more and more difficult as cars get wider to get doors open. And that's identified in the survey.
Very useful.
So as I mentioned, we have been looking at, as part of this, we're looking at what this useful life survey was going to be coming back with. We're also looking at the propulsion study. But as part of our due diligence, we were looking at whether there's opportunities, to perhaps be replacing or supplementing the fleet with some of these OSVs that are available with with the downturn in the oil exploration. There's a number of vessels that are available that we feel may be able to be converted to be able to fit our needs. So.
Mr. Jeffrey?
I think this is very useful information, but a little bit harrowing to see that it appears that a third of our fleet will be obsolete in about 3 years, and we'll need to replace 50% of our fleet in the next 7. And I think this hits home that we need to have a strategic vision about how we're going to go about replacing these vessels, and even more so the need for a strategic plan. Because I don't know, does our current bond limit even reach the level in which we could finance replacing these vessels? I don't think it is. So I think we need to think about this very strategically moving forward about how we replace these vessels, where we get funding. And I think in part our new grants position will probably earn their pay greatly in trying to find some grants for some of these vessels if we're switching over to greener propulsion systems.
So you do raise a good point in terms of bonding capacity and the limits. Obviously, to be replacing these vessels with new, we'd probably be looking at something along the lines of the Woods Hole if we were to build new. And I think we're probably somewhere in the $44 to $45 million range to replace that vessel right now. Taking into account with a conventional propulsion system. And again, once we get the report from Elliott Bay, that'd be another element to be looking at. in terms of some of these vessels, because of the downturn and some of these assets are sitting there, the indications are that there's some opportunities there that we could be getting some, much like when we bought the container and the Gayhead, the Pro Navigator and the North Star, I think it was. At that time, there was a downturn in the market down there as well, and we were able to acquire those for, cents on the dollar type thing. So I think there's some opportunity there that would fall within our current bonding. Otherwise, with our capital plan, a new vessel, we're probably looking at not being in the position until the end of 2023 to be able to start a construction of a new vessel. And obviously, with a 15 to 18 month construction time period, we're just getting to the point where it'd be replacing just one of the vessels. So it's a balancing act in terms of finances, in terms of what can be done, but also taking into account the need for service. If I may, I'd like to share. We do have some concepts here of potential what the OSBs would be. And hold on a second. So the container and the Gayhead, when they were originally purchased, were significantly smaller than they are right now. We actually added length to them and added sponsons to them to widen them. And the state of the offshore vessels now is that these vessels are actually bigger than what we have. And once we were to make modifications for to be able to dock them for the stern, they are wider. They're 12 to 15 feet wider on average than what our current vessels are, but they are not as wide as the Woods Hole and the Island Home and the Eagle. So, we're just looking at the potential. This would be a sample of what it would be looking like. We're looking at what sort of passenger amenities. We talked earlier about the limited passengers that can be brought on the container and the Gayhead now because of the 140 passengers. So these vessels we're looking at have an opportunity to perhaps 250 or 300 passengers with 200 seating interior seats available. Next. And we'll be looking at, this is another configuration where there'd be a mixed load with trucks and cars. And then next. And all truckloads. So, there's some opportunities there just because of the industry where they've gone in terms of these vessels. Actually, under that scenario there, we would actually have to shorten some of the vessels that we've been looking at by upwards of 20 feet in order to make them compatible with the size limitations that we have for Hyannis Harbor, for instance. So, but those are all things that we would continue unless the board feels we should not be pursuing that. I think those are all things that we'll continue to be looking at and working with the naval architect in terms of identifying what the conversion cost would be, the timeline for that, and also part of this would be is that we feel we need to have a naval surveyor go in and take a look at a couple of these vessels that we've identified and see what the conditions are, what they are, and look at the mechanicals and get a better sense as to what we would potentially be getting into if we were to continue to pursue this. So.
Mr. Malcolm?
That's a lot of stuff there, Bob and Mark. I appreciate that. So if I'm hearing you correctly, the Katama and the Gay Head are real problems pretty soon, if not now. That we're looking at alternative fuel, and we're going to get a report for alternative propulsion in the next at the next meeting. That there are some offshore vessels that are available that might fit, but we also have our borrowing and bonding capacity, as Mr. Jeffrey mentioned. So there are all those things that are in the pot, and I assume you're going to come back with some suggestions to us that take all that into account. The one thing that I didn't hear that I've talked about with you in the past, Bob, is to the extent we can create a fleet of similar, if not identical vessels, perhaps through these offshore vessels that might be available, so that we have one vessel with the same structure, the same engineering, the same parts inventory, and we have multiple copies of that. So the training, the maintenance, and so on is easier, and the parts inventory is similar. That would be, in my opinion, helpful as you add that to the mix. Thank you.
It would also help. It would also help in terms of training, the crew training and operation of the vessels.
Yeah, which was clearly one of the points they made about the Woods Hole.
Mr. Jones?
Yeah, I agree with that, Jim, and redundancy is a good avenue to follow. The oil recovery ships that I think there's 5 of them on the in the United States, from Alaska down to California and around. Each one of those ships are absolutely identical in all of their electronics and things like that. It's not the easiest thing to do because, you know, some pieces of electronics may be still serviceable, and you don't want to necessarily replace 5 pieces, you know, when you only need one. But anyways, that your thought is excellent on that. You know, I'm looking at this. It seemed to me the last survey that we did that the governor was had exceeded its useful life or barely. And we kind of reclaimed that by putting in a couple of big MTU engines in there that were going to be temporarily in there until we bought another vessel and then transfer those engines. But so we have a, you know, a fleet that really needs, you know, to be kind of overhauled. So I think, you know, we've talked about strategic plans and things like this. I think we've got to get into this pretty quick here of how we're going to move forward. You know, everybody, you know, looks to Washington State Ferry, which is certainly the art, but they also have, you know, authorized a $30 billion program to redo all of their vessels and things like that, and we're still a little light on that. I think with all the transportation bills that seem to be pending or promised, you know, through the federal government, et cetera, I don't know how we get into that mix of going for bonding. And, you know, somehow we got to get in there to get more money. We cannot afford it with our current day bond. And so I think when you're doing, you know, the viability of the shipping and things like that, that we got to go and put a pencil to the paper to find out how much we can really afford in a bond and then go ask for it. every time you go up with a bond or anything like that, naturally, that's got a direct effect on price of ticket pricing and freight. But if you don't have the boats to use, that's not going to do a lot of good. And with a cry for new hybrid boats right now, we're really, a long way down the pike before getting even that. So it's a big problem. Mark, did you accompany the surveyors on any of these boats?
Yes, I did. Part of it was done while the vessels were in dry dock. The surveyor was on the Nantucket with myself and recently in Thames Shipyard. I've been working with them very closely and pointing out some of the identification and structural steel surveys which I've completed. And, I'd just like to also add that, as an example that highlights the situation is that Katama has had 2 unscheduled dry docks between her statutory dry docks over the past 2 years associated with structural steel. So I think that's kind of a leader in where we need to go or what we need to look at.
Do you feel that the survey is pretty much right on accurate? No, I'm not going to ask you to qualify that. Never mind. I just want to make.
I think they.
I want to make sure.
I think they identified the items very. I think the report is very, very well done. It identifies a lot of the areas which we need to be looking at, and I believe the timetables are very accurate.
I was curious about the fact of commenting on the cruise on the, was it the Woods Hole or something, with modern technology. The newer these boats are, the more bells and whistles and idiot lights that come on all over the place here, and I know what we're doing with the learning management end of things is certainly moving forward. I guess that statement that they made says we need more. Are you familiar with the section I talked about?
Yes, I am. I think training is an ongoing thing with our crews, and as you get more modern vessels, such as the Woods Hole, you're going to have a higher degree of automation systems. And yes, not only the crew, but our maintenance crews need to be further trained up, and that's part of the evolution of the newer vessels. It's a programmable logic controller based, and it's a different vintage vessels than our older vessels, such as the OSVs and the Nantucket and the Governor.
Thank you.
So there
Anything
was
else?
just a couple comments. So I touched on in terms of, we do continue, even though we don't have a grants administrator yet, we do continue to seek out opportunities for any of the funding that might be out there for it. In terms of the bonding limit, that'd be something that would need to take place on the state level in terms of increasing our bonding limit. Indications are that perhaps under a transportation bond bill, that would be the most appropriate place to address that. Yes, I do agree that, the problem that we've had in the past is that, we build a vessel, and by the time we have enough funds going forward, it's another 5 or 6 years. Now here we are 6 years later, and we since the Woods Hole's been delivered, and we're still not in a construction mode for that yet. So a lot of the regulatory changes happen that occur, and I think we all would love to have compatible vessels in terms of not only for parts and inventory and the like, but also in terms of operational considerations in terms of the crews being familiar with one to the next. type of situation. So that is a piece of what we're looking at as well. As I mentioned, it's the availability of some of these vessels. We're not excluding the possibility that we would perhaps leverage this for perhaps more than one. As you know, once we get to the point of sitting down and talking numbers with the seller of the vessels. So, but because they generally have the operators that we've been in contact with, their fleet, they build multiple versions of the same vessel for just that same reason. So there's an opportunity there for us to perhaps leverage that at this point. So.
Next topic?
No other questions? Quickly, just wanted to provide you an update of the results of the 2022 preseason sale of the high-speed passenger ticket books. So for the 11th year in a row, we've offered this 20% discount. The discount applies solely to electronic ticket books for adults, seniors, and children books. The sale this year ran from Sunday, March 20th, and ended on Saturday, April 2nd. It resulted in 3,737 ticket books being sold, generating $823,000 in revenue. Cost us about, the discounts amounted to about $205,000. But it was a 16.8% increase over the number of ticket books that we sold the previous year, which was 3,199. So it's a valuable program. With the staff feels it's a valuable program for particularly island residents to be able to get an opportunity to purchase these and use them over the course of the following season. So.
Great. Any questions? Bob?
Just real quick, we all appreciate this sale every year, and we want to thank you for that. I only bought one ticket book this year, so I'm surprised to see the numbers have gone up so much, but this is great. Thank you.
Jim? Did you have, no, nothing? You're on mute.
I was just scratching, not questioning.
Oh, yeah, no worries. No worries. Okay, next topic.
All right, next topic is proposed modifications to the agreement with Centerplate. As Terrence comes up, I'll just quickly update you. So recently, Centerplate's Regional Vice President Pete Shuna inquired whether the authority would relieve Centerplate of its obligation for a minimal annual guaranteed concession fee for calendar year 2022. So as a reminder, with the onset of COVID-19 pandemic, the authority shut down the food concession services aboard its ferries. As a result of that decision, Centerplate did come back asking to be relieved of their 2020 obligation in terms of a minimum guarantee, which was so granted by the board. Then at the close of 2020, Centerplate again renewed its request for relief from the minimum guarantee for 2021. Because at that point, the concessions were not open as well. Both the times the members voted to relieve them of the minimum guarantee. So Centerplate again is requesting relief from the minimum annual guarantee for calendar year 2022. And staff believes that Centerplate should be relieved of its minimum guarantee until such time that Centerplate is able to fully staff concessions on board the vessels. Since the reopening of the concession services, Centerplate's been challenged by staffing shortages and product availability, as well as a changing customer travel pattern. Centerplate has been actively seeking employees in terms of they raised their starting rate of pay by over $3 an hour. They've been partnering with us at job fairs over the past months, trying to more outreach to hire staff. But it's been a challenge. It's been a challenge for us for staffing as well, both shoreside and vessels. And I can see the issues that they have in that regard. Terrence has anything?
No, I just think the numbers kind of bear out what we, as presented in staff summary, really bear out what they've been struggling with. And again, the minimum guarantees exceed the concession fees that they've paid to us. So I think it's a matter of just looking at the numbers, looking at the overall impact that the pandemic's had on their operation. And I think their request is a reasonable one.
And this would not relieve them of paying the percentage on sales, just would relieve them of the minimum amount that they would have to pay.
Mr. Jeffrey?
I understand why the board would have voted, and I would have voted this way if I'm the board at the time, when we were the reason closing the concession stands. But this is the 5th year of a contract that they agreed to with those minimum guarantees. And we're not in the same place we were with the pandemic in terms of the concessions going to be closed. So I don't know why their hiring problems or supply chain problems should become the burden of the authority to bear. I mean, is the concern that if we don't grant this, they'll just walk away from the contract? Because I don't see what other incentive there would be for the authority to vote for this waiver.
Yeah, so the history of this has been that, we put this out to bid every 5 years, and I don't know whether it's 20 or 25 years now, they have been the sole bidder on this. It's a complicated business in terms of the logistics to be making sure that they can, staff the vessels, do the vending, food prep and the like. So, that would, of course, is one concern. They have been a good partner over the years with the Steamship Authority in terms of their operation. And I know when there's in the past submitting proposals, if they missed staffing our trip during the course of the previous, 5 years, that was something that was notable, in terms of that. So I think staff is we're of the opinion that it's not for lack of effort on their part in terms of trying to do this, trying to get staff and fully bring it up. I'm sure that they would love to be in a position that they're paying us more than the minimum guarantee. But again, the minimum guarantee was established years before the pandemic occurred. So therefore, whether there be any consideration for this one more year of relief in that regard.
And I guess a follow-up, I guess we're getting ready to bid this out again. It would seem that if we've granted this if we're about to grant this for a 3rd year, are we going to just move away from a minimum guarantee as part of our solicitation and future contracts for concessions? If we're going to just go and waive them every year, I don't see why we should even put it in a contract moving forward.
Yeah, without having the RFP in front of me, I believe the language that we put in there is and/or a minimum guarantee, the greater of. That's right. I do recall 30 years ago when we actually did get a competing bid on this. I don't believe that they submitted an annual guarantee. And at the time, Boston Culinary Group, which became Centerplate, did have a guarantee, which obviously weighed heavily in the decision to award the contract then. That's a point well taken.
Mr. Jones.
So if we eliminate the minimum, where do you think they will come in at with, their normal pricing?
So
how much are we giving away?
back on my earlier comments, Bob, I think it really, if you look at the numbers, In the last year, we received $346,612 in concession fees. And in 2019, the year before the pandemic, it was $843,380. So I would anticipate, based upon what we're looking at, that somewhere, it's gonna fall somewhere in between there. I'm hoping that it's up to the $800,000 level, but I would think that it would fall somewhere in between, based upon just the most recent numbers. We're hopeful that things are gonna be improving here and that the traveling public's gonna be coming back out and enjoying the concessions on the boats.
And the fees that we collected in 2021, they effectively weren't, we didn't allow them back on the boats until May, June. At that point, and in terms of trying to find staff, I think they only were able to man half the vessels that they normally would have. So for them to have gotten to the point where they had $350,000 in fees that they paid, I would expect that they would get a lot closer to what would be the minimum guarantee for this year than that $350,000 that they paid last year.
Given this is different than the last 2 years of the pandemic, as we kind of move into what I guess an endemic, why aren't we seeking some amount of consideration to waive the minimum guarantee, just even asking for half of 0.1% to go up on the pass through on the sales?
Terrence?
Again, this is being presented to the board for their consideration. If the board wishes to do that, then that's something that we can definitely pursue and negotiate in the bargaining process. Essentially though, what we're really coming from is whether or not what the rebound is actually going to be. And I appreciate your the comments that things are getting better. Hopefully they will be. I think we're just being cautiously optimistic at this point. It's a tough call. I think the folks at Centerplate have been, as Bob alluded to earlier, a very good partner of ours. They truly do. It's truly a unique situation with our concession services. The crew members, the folks who work for them essentially become crew members along with our crew members. It's not simply turning up and getting on the boat and manning the concession stand. They sleep overnight. They and all these things and all these other operational issues impact how they operate. So we're just trying to be cautiously optimistic and recognize their difficulties that they've had in trying to conform and service the account. And again, if there's some kind of response that we want to make economically to offset the potential losses in the concession fees, we can do that. I guess that's part of the discussion here. So our recommendation at this point is to waive it for this year and see how we go and hope that we get up to the 800,000 or more level. But if the board wishes to do otherwise, then we'll take that into consideration and go back to Centerplate with it.
So the option then would be whether or not we go back to Centerplate to negotiate something in exchange for the waiver. I think that's a good idea. So I don't know how to characterize this in terms of voting. Should we vote first on waiving it? And then if there's a no vote on waiving it, then vote on giving you some bargaining authority to sort of up the financial arrangements? Terrence?
Yeah, whether.
I think the finances to Bob.
Yeah. So, I don't think it needs a vote to reject their proposal outright. I think it could be tabled with the instructions for staff to go and revisit the potential for any adjustments in the other fees accordingly. I think one thing that I forgot to mention here is that once Terrence mentioned that they're effectively part of the crew, as part of that requirement, we are requiring Centerplate to have their employees vaccinated as well. Right. And because of that, a lot of the effort that they had for during the job fairs that we were conducting, there was a group of their employees that they ended up losing as well. So it was one step forward, two steps back type of thing on that. So, but we can go back and sit down with them over what we feel would be an appropriate modification. I think one of the things that they are trying to do is establish more vending locations on some of these vessels that they weren't able to man last year. And that's, the vending ends up being a higher percentage, but we can look at all this.
Okay, so, is it, yes, Mr. Jones?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I certainly think there's some room for mitigation here in conversation. I suspect, and you guys that have the crystal ball, that we will be running this year to more of 2020 or so. I mean, or prior to that, 19. That, in other words, how far off would you think we'll be off from normal?
I think we're, the experience that we have right now is that vehicle traffic is back to where it was, and passenger traffic is, somewhere around 95% of pre-pandemic, if not better.
Say it again.
I think passengers.
I'm going to mention this, that I have a lot of trouble understanding your conversation from that room, because there's a lot of bounce. At least it is in my computer. I don't know about anybody else, but and I don't know how to mitigate it. I'll find out if I can buy some things like Rob has. Maybe that'll do it, but I can't understand half you're saying. So
I think we're back around 95% roughly on passengers carried compared to pre-pandemic. So we would anticipate with the opening that we had for vehicle reservations earlier this year, I'd anticipate that we would be, at or close to pre-pandemic traffic, passenger traffic.
That's important.
So I think, everyone seems to be in agreement that we table it for further negotiations by Bob with Centerplate. Is that accurate? Yes?
I think so. That's correct.
And we don't need to vote,
Yeah.
right?
So we can table it and we'll come back with our recommendations on, feedback or response to their request.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
All right, so next is the treasurer's report, which I'll be presenting this time.
Bob, I'm just gonna excuse myself for a minute and I'll ask Rob to take over for me in case I don't get back.
All right, so for the month of February, passengers carried on both routes was up 17.3%, or just under 16,000 passengers. Vineyard route was up 19.1%, while the Nantucket route was up 5%. So year to date, passengers carried are up 9.7%, or 18,212 versus a year ago. Next, just a graph showing should point out that, January, February, even March, it's so weather dependent on these numbers. A weather event can impact these numbers greatly this time. Next. So for vehicles carried on both routes, it was up 6.7% for 1,948 vehicles. The Vineyard route was up 7.4%. That was primarily excursion, but the standards are up as well. The Nantucket route was up 2.5%, primarily excursions, but as the standards were down, the auto portion of it was down at least. The total number of vehicles carried under 20 feet through February was up 0.3% or 188 vehicles. Next. Vehicles, this just shows the versus last year and this year, vehicles under 20 feet. Next. Freight trucks, which would be trucks 20 feet and over, was up 8.4% to 444 units. Vineyard route was up 8.1%, while the Nantucket route was up 8.8%. But for the year to date, it's a 0.6% increase with 66 trucks. Next. Just to show the trucks. Our overall number of cars parked for February was up 30.2% or 801 cars parked, daily fee parkers. Vineyard route was up 30.2%, while the Nantucket route was up 30.5%. Year to date, we're up 22.0% or 1,200 cars parked. And again, this really does reflect the weather-dependent nature of these months. Next. So for the month of February, vessels made a combined 1,372 trips. And that's a decrease of 66 trips or 4.6 versus budget. On the Vineyard route, we had 7 trips canceled for mechanical, 18 for weather, and 21 because of traffic demands. While on the Nantucket route, we had 0 canceled for mechanical, 6 for weather, and 16 for traffic demands. So year to date, the vessels have made a combined 2,813 trips, a decrease of 223 or 7.3% versus budget. And you'll see the Vineyard route had a total of 7 trips canceled for mechanical the first 2 months, 81 because of weather. While in the Nantucket, we had 0 trips canceled for mechanical and 33 for weather. Next. All right, financial, the net operating loss for the month of February was $3,586,000, was some $302,000 lower than the amount, higher than the amount budgeted. Net operating loss year to date, you'll see is $7,653,000, or some $265,000 lower than what we budgeted. On the operating revenue side of it, operating revenues and other income for the month were $4,854,000, or $1,099,000 lower than budget. Auto revenue, I guess we go ahead, sorry. You'll see auto revenue was up $13,000. Freight revenue was up $164,000. Passenger revenue by $30,000. Parking revenue by $32,000. But the big difference was in the miscellaneous income, interest income and license fees, as well as the bonds. So we had budgeted expectation that we'd be getting some grant revenue in February, and it's going to be occurring a little later in the year. So that's the big difference there on the revenue side of it for the month. And year to date, our budget, our operating income, other income is down $1,209,000 versus budget, or 11.1%. Just to break out of where, for the month and year to date, where our revenue is coming from. On the operating expenses, we had $8,440,000 for the month, or $797,000 lower than budget. Maintenance expense was down $648,000, or 24.9% versus budget. Fuel oil expense was $9,000 above budget. The actual cost, including the hedge premium, came in at $1.97 per gallon, and we budgeted $1.81 per gallon. Our administration expenses were down $132,000 as pension expenses were up by 40, but healthcare was down by 93,000. And unemployment contributions were down by 58,000. So year to date, our operating expenses of $17,312,000 is $1,474,000 lower than what we'd anticipated, or 7.8%. Next. Breakout of their operating expenses. So this is a quick snapshot of where we are for the month of March versus 2021. So passengers for the month are up 6.7% or 8,000 passengers compared to a year ago. Next. Vehicles carried is up under 20 feet. I should point that out. Excuse me, this is everything. Vehicles carried for the Vineyard route is down 0.3% or 119. Under the Nantucket route, it's up 8.8% or 686 for the month. And next. So I think our fund balances remain in good shape at this point, and with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, or Courtney could assist me if there's anything that I stumble on.
Any questions?
Not hearing any. Good. Next, quickly, last week, Mark sent out the report on number of steamship authority employees by wages by zip code. So hopefully the board and port council will receive that report, and just illustrates, over the past 3 years, we do this every year in terms of where our employees are coming from, and by and large, Barnstable County accounts for 53% of the employees that we have, and the biggest town of Falmouth at 184 employees, and 24.1% of our payroll goes to employees in the town of Falmouth. So it is diversified because of it being island-based, but just wanted to point that report out. All right, and next, there's no questions regarding that. We have a request from the members to authorize the general manager to award contract number 05-2022 dry dock and overhaul services for the MV Katama to the lowest eligible responsible bidder, which was Stain Shipyard and Repair Company of New London, Connecticut, for a total contract price of $1,113,941. The container is scheduled to enter shipyard availability from June 25th to August 8th, 2022. The required hull exam, rudder props, shaft maintenance, bow thruster maintenance, coating maintenance, and underwater substructure areas. We're also including installation of a fire detection system, a new tank level indicator system, and a new fuel oil purifier system. So the budget for this was $820,459. But since the budget was prepared, we had included the fire detection system in the capital budget, and we added in the purifier and the sewage tank level modifications in it. We sent the package out to 12 shipyards. We got 2 bids submitted. And at this point, we would like to request the members authorize the general manager to award contract number 05-2022 dry dock and overhaul services for the MV Katama to the lowest eligible responsible bidder, Thames Shipyard and Repair Company of New London, Connecticut, for a total contract price of $1,113,941.
Any comments or questions? No? May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. May I have a second?
Malkin.
Thank you, Mr. Malcolm. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Aye.
Jones, aye.
Malkin, aye.
Randy, aye.
Tierney, aye. So, I have a statement to read before we go. Oh, I'm so sorry. I forgot about old and new business.
I just have a quick question. With the mask mandate, what's going on right now based on the ruling from yesterday?
Good question.
So I checked right before I came into the meeting. The Coast Guard has not rescinded their requirement for masking on board, and we'll continue to monitor that, and if or when it changes, we'll respond accordingly.
Any other old or new business? And I don't have any items that I didn't reasonably anticipate. You can have public comment.
If anyone has public comment, you can hit the raise your hand icon.
Mr. Brennan?
Yes, I had a question for Mr. Davis on the bonding and whether the Woods Hole project, reconstruction project, is that part of the reason why there isn't bonding capacity for vessels at the moment?
Yeah, so in terms of it, we have a $100 million bonding limit. I believe we're somewhere around 67 million currently, so we've got about 33 million available bonding limit. And we're paying off the bonds at roughly about $7 million a year. In another 3 years, there's a cliff, and it really drops down significantly in another 3 or 4 years. With regards to the Woods Hole project, about half that project thus far has been funded through issuance of bonds, and the other half have been funded through our replacement funds.
Does that answer your questions, Mr. Brennan?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Any other questions?
No, I don't see any.
Okay. I'd like to entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss and approve the minutes of the authorities meeting in executive session, which took place on March 15th of 2022, to discuss security issues and review the authority's strategy with respect to pending litigation and collective bargaining negotiations, because a public discussion of these matters may have a detrimental effect on the authority's negotiating and bargaining positions. These matters include Captain Al Brox versus the Woods Hole Martha's Vineyard Steamship Authority, Civil Action 22-10242-IGS, filed in the U.S. District Court for the District of Massachusetts, the deployment of security personnel or devices and related strategies, anticipated and ongoing negotiations with Teamsters Union Local 59, SEIU Local 888, and MEBA District Number -1 PCD, in a tentative collective bargaining agreement with the Teamsters Union Local Number 59, governing the terms and conditions of employment for the authority's maintenance employees. The public disclosure of any more of this information with respect to these matters would compromise the purpose for which executive session is being called. At the conclusion of executive session, we will not reconvene in public. May I have a motion to go into executive session? Mr. Malcolm moves. May I have a second?
3 seconds.
Mr. Jeffrey, thank you for the second. May I have a roll call vote?
Jeffrey, aye.
Jones, aye.
Malkin, aye.
Randy, aye.
Tierney, aye. Thank you. Come back in, what, 5 minutes? Do you shut us down, Bob? Is that what happens?
Does 10 minutes work?
10 minutes will work, sure.
Onto the same Zoom in about 10 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well.